Shri Mataji, Felicity,
Yes,
thank you, Ji, and Alex Henshaw. Thank
yes,
you for
Mataji
joining us
Devi.
this morning on Shri Ganesha's birthday. It's being celebrated as Vasant Panchami as well in India and all over. Um, Alex is joining us from Australia this
Yeah.
morning, which is night time there. So thank you for the effort. And Felicity, thanks for being instrumental in making this happen. Um, Alex, should we start with you and ask you how and where you were when you got your realization? What was your first meeting with Shri Mataji Nirmala Devi like?
Well, I start, from the story with how I came to get realization. So my mother was listening to a radio program. We're based in Australia, so in Sydney, and Shri had come to Sydney for public programs in 1983. So she was interviewed by, quite a famous interviewer, and my mother was listening to the program. Was on the Australian Broadcasting Commission, Australian ABC Broadcasting Corporation. So she really felt something. Made so much sense for her. And then what really got her interested was when Shamaji said, this is an all-pervading power of God's love. All you need to do is put your hands out and have the pure desire, and you'll feel it. And my mother put her hands out, and then Shamaji blew into the mic of the radio station, and my mother felt like someone's blowing on her hands. She was very sensitive. She felt like someone's literally blowing on her hands. So that really got her interested. So she called my father and got sort of rallied us around. But unfortunately for me, I was in the middle of my sort of mid semester exams and study period, so I was so busy that I actually missed the opportunity to see Srimati. And when I was ready, she'd already left. She'd gone down, I think she'd gone back to India. So I missed the chance and I was so disappointed. But then I came and got my realization and had a very strong experience. And then it was so strong that I kind of, it just blew me away. And I was in this state, this bubble, this bliss bubble for about 2 weeks, just floating around, that I had all the answers to the problems of the world. And I felt this incredible connection with Mother, like I felt that, I've been with her for, before, and this was what I was supposed to be doing to serve her. So that was a feeling I had after realization. So it was very strong. So then after I came to the programs every week, sometimes 3 times a week. I was in the middle of my university degree and I was busy and then, trying to fit it in. And then I thought, well, I'm just going to move into the ashram. And my younger brother had already moved into the ashram because my younger brother Rob, he was even more sort of keen than I was. So he moved in within a month. And then it took me a couple of months, but I eventually moved into the ashram. So I spent, you know, the first year of my life, of Sahaj life, was living in an ashram. So in Australia in those days, as Felicity will probably tell you, that it was quite regimented. It was like being in the army. So we were getting up very early in the morning, 4:30, meditation at 5. The conch would go off, and I was living in the boys' dorm. So it was
Wow.
really, really disciplined. Then we'd have meditation. It was like, shoe beating first and then meditation for an hour. And then we'd have breakfast together, clean up the place. And then, we'd go off to uni and people would go to work. Then we'd come home in the evening. We have to do foot soaking. We'd have foot soaking. And then we'd have, evening meditation together. And we'd always sing arti at the end.
Mm.
And then we do our Sahaj jobs that we had. Like, I was doing all the video recording, making tapes and doing sort of producing tapes for all the centers around. So we get the videotapes sent over usually from England, and then we duplicate them and send them out to the ashrams around Australia, and then we'd produce more so people could buy them. So that was a really busy time for me. I was in the middle of my degree, so I was studying, working. I didn't have much sleep during that time because it was like, getting back and doing my study and work for uni, and then doing my Sahaj work, and then the chores around the ashram. So it was a really, really busy time. But we were all joyful. We were all so excited that we'd found the truth. We had this incredible sort of dynamism of going out to programs, giving people realization. We just wanted to share it with everybody, and we were all very excited to get tapes of Mother, like it was the new tape of Mother's coming, and we were just so excited. And we'd listen to it again and again. We'd play it in meditation, we'd listen to it and really imbibe what Mother said, in the tapes. We tried to sort of, get to the essence of what it was about. So it was very, I would say, a very sort of intense period, to have that sort of background and training in the ashram. And then every year they have the India tour. So I had this marked, I'm definitely going to go to India. So I was saving up money. I was working a part-time job as well, saving up as much money as I could because I just wanted to go over to India and meet Mother. That was my objective at that time. And then I managed to get I graduated, and that's another story in itself because I was an average student, and after realization, I went from average to the top. And
Yes.
it was like my whole brain had been reset, and I could concentrate and focus, and then I could study really effectively. Because before that, I was just having fun and doing the usual student stuff, and not really getting too serious about it. Sorry. And then I would basically, you know, I was kind of like a bit behind, and then realization was a transformative effect on my brain. So it really made me focused, and I could actually really think critically and think very clearly. So when I did my thesis, I was kind of, I got this incredible inspiration after meditation, and it just came to me how I should structure the thesis. And I arranged all the information horizontally on the floor, and I put piles of information for each of the sections. And then I read through each section and then started writing. So it was like a flow of just inspiration. So I managed to finish it in 3 weeks, the whole writing. I'd researched for a year, so I had all this information. And I don't know if anyone's written a thesis before, but it can be a really daunting thing where you have so much information. You say, where do I start? So I was at that dilemma point, and I remember meditating and just saying, Mother, please help me to get through to this thesis. I really need your guidance and help and in the meditation. And then that's when it came to me how to, lay it out horizontally in piles of information. And then, I wrote it very quickly, and then all these things just worked out. So I was able to finish it off, present it, and then walk out, forget it. I've, handed it in. And coming back after the break, and then the professor coming up to me and said, it was, this is an inspiring piece of work. This is the best thesis I've read in the last 20 years. I went, what?
Amazing.
So it was
Remind
kind
us
of,
the time. It's 1983, the summer
this is
winter
this is
fair.
1983, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, amazing.
So in the end, I just, it's just like a miracle for me, because I thought, wow, and the same, I had to take all that, synthesize all that information that I'd, done for my thesis, and then produce a design from it. So it was, the same kind of thing. I'm sort of getting this meditation. In the meditation, I came up with a design. It was sort of saw the vision in my mind, and then produced the design, had to build it myself as a prototype. And then the same thing happened, and it was like everybody was saying, "Well, it's an amazing design. I won a design award." It was in a, in the,
So what were you studying?
so I did industrial design, and then part of my thesis was studying the developmental challenges of cerebral palsy children. So basically, I had to study a normal development of a child, and then a abnormal development, which a child with cerebral palsy. So I researched and found all the information about what are the challenges, physical challenges of a child when they have cerebral palsy, and the main challenges is they can't develop their normal posture and things like that, because they're in spasm. So it's very hard for them when they have this sort of one set of muscles moving one direction and then the other direction. So you can see they're sort of, sometimes their joints get dislocated. So the whole process was to sort of emphasize, what are the points of that I can intervene with, say, for example, some design furniture or something which is going to help them. So in the end, what I did for the design is I came up with a standing frame to help them develop standing posture, because normally they don't stand up because they're in spasm. But if you strap them into a frame, it helps to develop standing posture, and then the hips can develop properly, because normally for a child that's not standing up, the hips don't cup over properly. So it means they dislocate very easily. So these children often, because none of them stand up, they dislocate their hips, and they'd be in tremendous pain, because of the spasms they might have. So it's quite because the centers of the motor centers of the brain have been damaged, usually in childbirth. They're actually damaged because of lack of oxygen to the brain, or some trauma that happens usually during birth. So this was my thesis. So I had to sort of research, go out to centers where they looked after cerebral palsy kids, and then it's vibrationally quite heavy, with the sort of it's not easy to do. So I'd started this before realization, and then when I got my realization, I was much more sensitive to it. So it was a bit of a challenge. But in the end, everything worked out. I had the thesis finished, and I did very well. And then the design came from that, and then I did that very well. Won an award, got a job offer. Literally the day after I finished university, we had a sort of an exhibition, and then from that exhibition, I got offered a job straight away. And then all the other graduates were 12 months waiting for a job, very hard to get. It wasn't an easy time to get jobs. So I was sort of offered this job straight away. So I started work, and then I told the boss straight away that, look, I'm going to be, after 3 months, I'll be traveling to England. That was my plan, and to India and stuff, and do this big trip. So I'd saved up money for that. He said, "Oh, no, that's fine. You can work." So I was getting paid quite well and saving that money. And that was my sort of money that I used for traveling. So I ended up traveling to India, on the India tour. And that was the first time I saw Mother. And it was
1984?
1983, 84 tour.
Okay.
So the end of 83, 84. So yeah. And then in those days they had 8-week tours. Like they had, you could do two sets. And so I came for one of I think it was the second part of the tour. And then we arrived in Bordi, and then there were marriages in Bordi. And Bordi was before Ganapatapule. So Mother would be in Gujarat. So she, up from Mumbai on the coast. And it's not far from Nagar, where she opened the Sarastra. So this is where she used to have her, it was a big seminar. We're by the sea. And then all the yogis from the first tour would turn up. And then, my brother turned up with malaria, and he was sweating. Well, we didn't know he had malaria, but he was just, fever and sweating all the time. And then he wasn't well at all. So I was looking after him. And then he went back to Australia. Then he was sort of rushed to hospital because he had malaria. After he got it in, I think it was Aurangabad or somewhere. Anyway, so we went on this tour. It was just a tour where it was, as they say, you're having a clear out. So I think from the time I arrived, I started getting a cough. And then within the first days, I had dysentery. And then from there, it was like, downhill spiral. I was just literally living off rice and yogurt the whole time. I couldn't eat any of the food. Every time I try, it would just sort of irritate the gut, and then I would just be another bout of diarrhea. So it was very tough for me in that, and I lost weight. I wasn't that, didn't have a lot of weight anyway. So I was just like, lost, like a skeleton. I was just so thin. So I enjoyed the tour for the 4 weeks. And then my plan was to go to England. So I went to England, and I went back with, met a lot of the English on the tour. And then Kingsley Flint, who was living in Brighton at the time,
Yes.
he just got married to Ruth. So that was in the weddings we went to. And then he said to me, "Come back to Brighton. When you come back to England, you must come down to stay with us in Brighton at the ashram." And that's what I did. I went back to Brighton after that. And then gradually I recovered from the dysentery, went on for a couple of weeks, and then slowly got better, with all the Ajwan and all the things he used to take. And then, Mother was coming back to, I think it was February, she was coming back to London, to England. She was arriving at the airport at Heathrow. And that was all the yogis from England were gathering at the airport. So we all went there with flowers. Mother came, and we were giving the flowers, and we were all so excited to see Mother again, because we left in India before she'd left, and then we came back to England, and then we saw Mother again. And then she took us, you know, we gave flowers. She took all the flowers from everybody. So patient. I mean, I was just amazed. She was so fresh, you know,
Yes.
flying so many hours from Mumbai, and you know, probably leaving in the middle of the night, but arriving in London, and she looked as though she was just so fresh and full of love and shining. And I was just, you know, just completely melting, you know. She was just accepting everybody's flower and how are you? How are you? And very happy to see everybody at the airport. So these were precious moments when you have that chance to be with Mother. And of course, on India tour, we had pujas and we had time with Mother. There was a famous talk that she gave on the Nira River, which was Pandapur, and she talked about, you know, Shivatri. You know, this is like this very. I mean, you should listen to that talk. It was amazing. But I remember being so sick. And that talk, I was sitting up the back of the pendule, and the talk was so powerful. I forgot about my body. I was just completely in bliss, and I was just floating again. So I thought, oh, wow, such a powerful experience. That was probably the highlight for me at the on the India tour. And then we saw Mother again. That was great to see her again. And then it was a process. I was just staying in Brighton for a while, and then I moved to London. Stayed in London. I was in an ashram, just sort of, you know, thinking, oh, I'll go up to Scotland. We were pretty sort of free with another yogi. We were thinking of going,
Which,
Australian yogi, going up
which
to.
ashram? Which ashram were you in?
It was a small ashram. I think I think it was in Camden. It wasn't Cheltenham, but it was
Road. No.
another smaller one, an annex, sort of like, and Fergie was staying there. So you know, he said, I'll come and stay. So we went to stay there. And then we were walking out. We were ready to go up to Scotland, and Fergie was, you know, taking us to the station and telling us where we need to go to catch a train up to Scotland. And the phone rang just as we were leaving, and Fergie ran back in and answered it. And it was somebody from Brompton Square asking, are there any people that want to come and help, you know, do some work at Brompton Square? So he said, just a minute, and he came out and he said, do you want to go to Brompton Square to Mother's house instead of Scotland today? And we said, sure. We just took our bags back and dropped them off, and then we went straight over to Brompton Square. And you know, it was quite cool. It was February. It was cold.
Oh,
And
cold.
I remember coming, you know, walking from the tube from, I think it was South Kensington Station, and walked to Brompton Square. It was a little chilly. And then we walked down. In Brompton Square was a Georgian terrace, and it had like 5 floors. And then the road level, there was a basement. So there was stairs going down to a basement level where the servants and the dining room was down at the bottom. So we came down those stairs and we walked inside to the basement level, and it was like it was so warm going into this room, and it was like, you know, the vibrations just hit you, you know, like you were just in blissful state immediately as you walked in. And then it was so warm, it's like going back to India. Like the feeling was like I'm back in India. And we sat down in the first room. There was a servant's room. We sat down there and we just meditated. We sort of completely blissed out. And then somebody came down. They found out that we were there, and they came down and said to us, you know, come up. You're not here to meditate. You're here to do some work. So we had to sort of, you know, gather ourselves and go and do the work. And we were sort of kind of moving stuff and moving furniture and doing, you know, odds and you know, things, just shifting things here and cleaning things and doing general sort of housework, cleaning and stuff.
So
And
Alex, so at
yeah,
this point, the house had been finished, in like Mother was living in the house and the
Mother
building
was
work
living in
was
the house.
done. And the
Yeah,
building work was done.
building work had finished, and what it was I think Mother was trying to prepare it. She wanted to sell the place, and that was basically her plan to sort of, from the square. She wanted to sell the place,
So
and
she'd been there a while then. If this was 83 or 84. This is
84,
84.
84. How
So
long did she stay there
So
then?
she must have been there because she moved in 81. So she'd actually been living there 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
but during that time it was, completely renovated, and basically it really just, I guess, completed and finished the renovations. But then there was like fine tuning the decorations, and this is what we were doing. We're kind of like, deciding what she wanted to do with the, final finishes and things like that. So it was all the major stuff had been done. Like she was changing some wallpaper and maybe doing some gold leafing, and this is where, we had people like Antonio Shallow, who was doing all the gold leafing. It was just everything was gold. And mother wanted, okay, all these wood carvings, you want gold on it. The stair banister,
Why
all
was
gold.
gold? Any particular reason that Shri Mataji talked to you about?
Well, she said the vibrations, and the gold is very, obviously an auspicious metal, and this creates the vibration. It was like a palace, like if you look at
Yes.
those, it was kind of like an Indian Rajasthani palace where
Yes.
she was kind of all the beautiful carvings and everything which was there, and the decoration. So you had different themes in different rooms. And if you see the video, I mean, maybe you can play the video and I can
Yes.
talk through it.
But talk through it. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Because
Yeah,
the video is we made the video with Shri Mataji's direction, so it's a very, very interesting sort of view of the whole place, and we kind of showed all the different rooms, and there were very special rooms where mother had particular ornaments and particular carpets and furniture, and little sort of special things that she would have, very ornate.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is you're going to show an extract of a much larger video that's on YouTube, like a 40-minute. And this is such a, sorry, Alex, but this is such a beautiful view of the outside, and this is so typical of these well-to-do, beautiful neighborhoods that Shri Mataji moved into with.
So this is the view of the street. Now it's Brompton Square has, it's a square, and it's got in the sort of center of it is a park, a little park, and all the residents have a key. It's a locked up park, but every resident has a key for accessing the park. And it's one of those Georgian terrace, row house. So this is view from the house, from the front, looking out onto the street.
And amazing vibrations for yogis, and we went there across the road, didn't we, just to feel the vibrations, and it's just amazing recharge. So
and you said it's Alex, that while this was being filmed, Shri Mataji was there saying, okay, now film this, zoom in here, zoom out there. So everything
she
has
was
a
directing
purpose.
the whole thing, and basically the purpose of the video was to basically show clients, send the video to, say, Saudi Arabia, and she really was interested in, selling it to somebody who would appreciate the decoration. And it's something which I could say would be more, a Middle Eastern kind of, or Indian sort of flavor, with these elaborate gold work and, lovely chandeliers, and, really, really tastefully done in terms of is very sort of, I would say very elegant, fine sort of, and she had a lot of china and a lot of sculptures and paintings and everything. So it was really a very sort of Middle Eastern theme, Indian Middle Eastern sort of theme, and she was targeting those sort of buyers, at the time.
And were you living in the house at the time of the video?
Yes, I mean, yeah, I've been staying there. What happened was after we did this first encounter, I'll tell you the story of how it happened. So we were, moving the furniture, and then in the afternoon, it was sort of in the morning, mid-morning, and we were sort of, doing all the work we'd finished. And then Shri Mataji invited us up for tea, So the first time, it's really, the first time I'd really sat very close to mother, and the first interactions I'd had with her, directly, I hadn't really had much chance to sort of have these interactions in India. But we were sort of on the floor, there was a table, and mother was sitting on a settee, and she had, tea sets, and she had coffee and she had tea. And she was saying, to everyone, would you like tea or coffee? And she looked at me and she said, "Would you like tea or coffee?" "No, you better have tea. Your liver's, your liver's not good." So she gave me tea, and she said, "You need more sugar." And so she was telling me that, I should go on a liver diet. So that was the first thing, the first time. And then she asked me what I was doing. And at the time, what the plan for me was, my Iraqi sister had moved to Germany, and she was, in the ashram, the first ashram in Munich. And she'd suggested, she was living in Australia. She was married to an Australian, but she was German. And then she moved over to back to Germany to help with Sahaj studying in Germany. And then when I said to her, "Shri Mataji," I was sort of feeling, saying, "Mother, I'm going over to Munich, Germany, to help start Sahaj there." And she just said, she just shook her head and said, "No, no, no. Germany is a horrible place, horrible vibration. So many people died there. It's a very heavy place." She said, "You better stay here." And when she said stay here, I thought she meant London. And then afterwards, the leader at the time, Gavin Brown, came out to me and said, he said, "You must have done something good in the past life. You must have good punyas, because Mother's asked you to stay in her house." And I said, "Really?" I thought she said stay in London. No, no, no. She wants you to come and move into the house. So that was a real shock for me, because when I had realization, I felt that I'd been serving Mother before, and I had this connection that I'd been with Mother, and which she confirmed later, that she said I've served her in many lives, and many times I've come back to serve her. So I had this feeling, and here I was living in, invited to stay with her, and then my whole day was serving Mother. So it was something that I had a desire, and the Mother obviously fulfilled that desire. But it was a very special time, and it was completely surprise for me. And then after I realized, looking back on it, was she was preparing me for, what I was going to do later on, which I'll touch on later.
So what was your day like with Shri Mataji, living with her at Brompton Square, please?
So it was like living in an ashram, because she said the first night I stayed there, I was, I guess I'd been, because I've been sick and I've been recovering, I slept in, and I slept in till 8 o'clock, which was, normally unheard of for a yogi to sleep so late. And then I came down, and I came down, and Mother had been up already. And then she said to me, "Did you sleep well?" And I had such a good sleep. I felt so energized. And I said, "Shri Mataji, I had such a good sleep." And she said, "That's good." But she said, when you're with me, you need to get up at 4 o'clock and meditate." And I said, put my ears, says, "Yes, Shri Mataji, I'm sorry I slept in." She said, "No, no, no, you needed to rest. You said you needed the rest. It's good. But, tomorrow you need to get up at 4. So we got up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Antonio was staying with us as well, Antonio Shallow. So we just got up and meditated together at 4 o'clock. And then, Shri Mataji would wake up early as well. So she was up by 4 or 5, and then we'd bring her tea in the morning. I'd make tea, take it to her for morning tea, and then I'd make the breakfast. So usually I'd make whatever Mother wanted for breakfast.
What was the usual breakfast, please?
Oh, the usual breakfast, she was on a protein diet. So it consisted of egg whites, ham, sometimes frankfurters, and cheese. So it was like there's no carbs or anything. So it's a pure protein diet. So she was taking that every morning for breakfast. And that was the usual thing. And then after that, she would invite me, I bring the breakfast, and then I'd sit down, and she'd be talking about what we were planning for the day. And then she said, "Well, I need to go to buy, sometimes it was to go to the flower market, or to go to, to buy to the hardware shop to buy some wallpaper, or, various things. Sometimes she had to do banking, and, so it was whatever Mother wanted in that day. And sometimes we'd go shopping for food, and she'd go Indian shopping in Southall. She'd buy all the Indian food. And so there was some, every day was different. And then there'd be some guests coming, or she had some diplomatic function, and then she'd be preparing for that.
Because essentially she was, so CP was in London as a diplomat, and she was serving the Maya function of being the diplomat's wife.
And
And a
yeah, I mean,
lot of hosting, a lot of hosting.
a lot of hosting, a lot of people coming and going, and then a lot of yogis coming and going, a lot of calls from all over the world. And it was like the center of the universe. You know, you can imagine the whole of Sahaja Yoga was coming into, like, from different countries. There were people reporting, you know, on what's going on. There were people arriving, you know, lots of different people were coming and going, and from India and from other places. So she would be receiving people. And then there was diplomatics. She'll be having, you know, like a tea party for the diplomats' wives. And then, you know, she'll be, you know, very sweetly you know, so many different roles that she played. So she was the diplomat's wife. She was Mrs. Srivastava, you know, doing the domestic stuff. And then she was the Adi Shakti, you know. So you just see these roles changing, you know, from day to day. And then I always have to remind myself she's the goddess, she's the Adi Shakti, because, you know, she's very motherly and make you feel very comfortable. And sometimes you know, you can get, you know, fall into the mire and then become more familiar, and you just have to pull yourself back, and you've got to sort of, you know, realize that she's the Adi Shakti. But I was always very natural around her. I never, you know, I was never scared. I was never sort of nervous, because some other people were always very nervous and very kind of, you know, reserved and not, you know, because they're conscious of, you know, of, I don't know, making a mistake or something like that in front of mother protocol. And, you know, I was more sort of, I just had this natural feeling, you know, and a sense that, you know, what to do, what I shouldn't do. I guess it was, you know, an innate protocol that was there. And I try to always, you know, remind myself, you know, she's the Adi Shakti, she's a goddess. And in the meditations, I just, you know, pray. And then she told me the deities are watching, you know, the deities are always watching you to make sure that you're doing, you know, you're not, you know, stepping the boundaries or, you know, overstepping the protocol or anything. So that was always a mindful thing. The deity is always watching what you're doing. So you have to be extremely aware of, you know, in the goddess's house. You know, you can't be doing things, you know, joking around. Even though we had a lot of you know, interesting times doing decoration work and working hard. And it was really an interesting time, you know, to be with mother at that particular time. There's so much going on.
It's a very interesting thing that you've just mentioned about being in Shri Mataji's house, and now Shri Mataji is in our hearts, in our homes. And so it's kind of, you know, the importance of realizing that we are in her presence all the time, and observing, shall we say, the protocols, isn't it? It's just a way of life now, isn't it? A lot
It is.
It's moved on to the subtle level that before it was we were physically in mother's presence and made to be aware of how we should be in mother's physical presence. But as you say, now mother is everywhere inside. But if we can maintain that sense of I am still in the presence of mother, of Shri Mataji, of Dadi Shakti, then that's such a sweet thing, because then it informs our behavior and helps keep our attention there, because can be such a challenge nowadays with the Maya. Yeah, that's really sweet.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt that, Alex, what you were saying, that it's such a different feeling when you're in mother's house, you know, because we talk about, the vibrations were very strong and the vibrations felt like this. But when I went a couple of times, but I went to visit her in Victoria Gardens, and I remember walking through that front door, and suddenly I felt like I was in the womb again, like this, you feel this incredible thickness and bubble of vibrations all around you, this energy, but it's this comforting,
soothing,
protective, soothing. Yeah. And it's different from being in the puja. It was very different from being in a puja. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the intensity is amazing. The vibrations are so strong, and it just I could never think, right? It was like, it's hard. I mean, if you're in a deep state of meditation and you're feeling that, Kundalini blasting, your Saraswara is open, that's the way you feel all the time, like, from day to day, you're just completely blissed out. And I didn't have a lot of thoughts, People said, did you ask Mother anything? And I said, I didn't have any thoughts in my mind. There wasn't any sort of cognition about what to ask Mother,
No
because
questions.
there was no questions. They were just in this state of bliss.
And
So
completely in the
something to
present
enjoy.
moment. Completely in the
Exactly.
present moment. Yeah.
And then when you're doing something, you're just, following Mother. So it was interesting because, I started doing helping, do the breakfast, and, we kind of had various things we were doing. Like I was doing all the cleaning, and like the day was full with housework and doing stuff. And then there was sometimes, some of the tradesmen were coming in to fix things. And one day there was we discovered that there was rising damp, and a rising damp is a big problem in a lot of houses in the UK because it rises up the wall, and then the wall can go moldy, the wallpaper can peel off, and a lot of problems with rising damp. So what we discovered was that there was some water leakage somewhere. We didn't know where it was. It was going up the walls, and we pressed the damp meter into the walls where the plaster was, and the damp meter was really high, so the walls were saturated, and then some of the wallpaper was peeling off. And this went from the ground floor up to the second floor. So it had, capillary action of the plaster would draw water all the way up to the second floor. And then we were trying to find, where the leak was. So we were walking, Mother said it's coming from the basement. So we went down to the basement because the roof had been checked and there wasn't anything from the roof. It wasn't coming down, it was coming up. And then Mother said it's coming down from the basement. So Mother was walking along with her hands towards the floor. And then she said, it's here. This is where the water's leaking. And then Pat Anslow, who was doing the helping, lifted the tile up, and there was sort of a screed, and then he dug that out, and then there was a copper pipe because there was copper pipes under the heating pipes under the floor, and then we discovered that it was a broken, like a split pipe, which had been obviously damaged when they filled it in at some stage. It had been broken and leaking for a long time, and this is why the walls were damp. So she found the leak, and then he was able to fix that, and then we had people coming, and she had to dry the place out. So we had these big dehumidifiers and fans and trying to dry the place out. So it was really amazing how Mother just, and then the water, if you put the damp meter in, it was, still very high. And then she said, no, I'll have to fix this. So she gave it vibrations, gave the wall vibrations. And then when the damp meter went in, it just went up a little bit. So she'd moved the water from that area of the wall. And then she did it around the other places. And then the damp meter was showing that all the water had gone.
Amazing.
So with vibrations, and she was always saying, check your vibrations. What do you feel on vibrations? So every day it was like you're introspecting, feeling your vibrations. She kept telling you, now what do you feel? So I cleared out a lot. I was just completely, clear because I've been with Mother every day. So if somebody walked in the basement, they came to visit, I immediately felt all their catches, and I could have been on the second floor or in Mother's room or anywhere in the house, and I'd immediately feel whatever problems the person had, the catches. And then one day she said, I felt my agya just go bang, and then she said, so and so's come, your agya's catching, so go and tell her to clear the agya, so every time someone would come, there'd be, she'd say, go and tell them to do this or that. So there were a couple of yogis that came over. Mother said their Swadhisthana and void is horrible. She said, go and tell them to do mudka treatment. So I had to send them away because they were quite caught up. So every time, there's all these people sort of flowing through. So a lot of people wanted to come and see Mother. So I have to kind of, be alert about, what was going on with their vibrations before I'd allow them to come and see Mother.
You were the gatekeeper. You were
Yeah,
like
I
the
was a
gatekeeper.
gatekeeper in a sense, and then unless mother had requested them, if she had requested them, then of course they would come and see her. But sometimes people would randomly turn up, and you'd have to sort of, tell them, you just can't turn up here. It's a protocol to it. And sometimes mother would see them, depending on how busy she was and how, if it was important to see them. But oftentimes she was always sort of, making sure that, the vibration, she would say, okay, go and tell them to do this and that. She would put attention on them and then, give me instructions to tell them what to do, to clear on the vibrational level. So that was always I guess the flow of things. People would come and go. Then we get calls from all different times of the night. Phone would ring and someone would be calling from America, someone calling from Australia, someone calling from Middle East, so there were just all the time this constant sort of, movement of, attention and focus from different parts of the world. And, someone say, oh, I'm calling from such and such a place, can you tell Shri Mataji my father's had a heart attack or something, someone from India calls up, my father's had a heart attack, and I said, yes, and but can I speak to Shri Mataji? And I said, no, not at the moment, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, so oftentimes you'd have to be, taking all these calls from random people calling up, and sometimes mad people would ring up, and in the middle of the night they ring up and say, can I speak to Shri Mataji? And they got very angry when you said, no, you can't, it's in the middle of the night, But anyway, Shri Mataji was, I'd often relay the messages, of course, whatever people, I got a call from so-and-so, and she said, well, and their father's having heart attack or something, or heart problems, and she said, "I will give them abundance." So she gave them abundance. She said, "Why are they calling me of these things? They can do it themselves. They they have the power. They have all my powers. They can work on themselves." So sometimes she would be a little bit upset with the yogis for not assuming their powers, because she said everyone has the powers. Why don't they use them? She said all the healing powers are there from yogis, and they always wanted mother to do it, and it was it was like I would say, you're learning all the subtleties of, the goddess and how the goddess works, and this like a flow of different things happening, and it really felt like a cosmic kind of dance, like things are moving, lots of Sahaj work has been happening all over the world, and mother's put attention on so many things. And then there was world things that mother was putting her attention on. And I remember she was always looking at the news, always keeping up to date with what's going on in the world. So she had her attention on all the things which were happening at that time, So it was quite an interesting period in history.
Because she would ask, when she would go to other countries, she would always ask to see the local newspapers to see what was going on, and she would watch the TV, and I'm sure she had TV, because there were, didn't she?
Yeah, she was watching the news, keeping up to date with what's going on. And one of the things that she'd often do is, she would basically, like Wimbledon. We watched Wimbledon together. She really enjoyed the tennis or the cricket. She would watch that, and then she was watching Borg and McEnroe that was in the 80s. So Borg and McEnroe was sort of coming up, and he was still, he's sort of shouting, come on, John. And she said, he's a realized soul, he's speaking in the third person. And then Bjorn Borg was another realized soul. She said, look, the two realized souls playing, she said, the younger one is more, more sort of, I guess, impatient. And she said the older one is very calm and cool. If you ever watch Bjorn Borg play, just incredibly collected and just didn't show any emotion, just completely sort of meditative in a way. She said, see the difference, but she really enjoyed it. She said she always enjoys these, matches and sort of watching them play. And then sometimes she'd watch a, Hindi movie or something like that, So we had the family over. Every year they'd come to stay with her. So Sadhana Didi and Rommel and the two children came across. So I was kind of babysitting at one stage, playing cricket with Anand. And
so this is mother's grandson. So mother's the grandchildren.
Grandson, the grandchildren. So it was very, like if it's sort of, you feel like part of the family, you're playing, and they make you feel very, you know, like I guess I'm serving them, looking after them. So, you know, we became very close, you know, in those days. And then Kalpana came as well with her children. And it was always, you know, you're kind of observing. You're not sort of, you have to be not too familiar, but, you know, you're there for, you know, for serving and looking after. So you have to always maintain that sort of relationship, you know, even though they're very welcoming and making you feel, you know, part of the family, but you have to remind yourself, you know.
Indeed. Shall we watch a bit of this video that you had taken of Brompton Square? No.
Yeah, so this is a video that actually Paul Winter, he's now living in Thailand. This is a video that he produced because he was doing the video a lot of in the early 80s. He was producing all the videos for Mother, and he had very good equipment, and he really made an effort to you know, to Mother. I said, oh, we need to make a film, so he was there to help Mother's directing the film. So we can watch a bit of it, and I'll kind of narrate and explain some of the things.
Yes.
So I'll go.
Okay. Thanks for joining us, Felicity.
It was so lovely to see you and be part of all this. I look forward to watching the rest of it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for
Mataji.
painting
Bye.
this. Thanks.
So this is from the outside, 48 Brompton Square, 1984. Yeah. 5 levels of house, so you can see all the paneling and the gold leaf work. These are all beautiful lamps and chandeliers from Venice and Turkey, the different glasses that he had. And this is all the wood paneling I was talking about with the carving. This is all beautiful gold leaf. There's a lot of gold leaf work that Antonio had done when
Amazing.
Chinese vases that Shri Mataji had, these big vase. Some of the carved frames and the paneling. So this is one of the chandeliers, beautiful crystal pink color.
Sorry, I've taken the volume, the music out. So could you please speak over from what you were saying initially, because I don't think it was very clear.
Yeah, so that was the beginning or the places. I don't know what this one is.
No.
This is an ad, I think.
Yeah.
So this is a reception room.
Yeah.
So there was this is a tapestry.
Yeah.
You know, some embroidery work. I think it's on the lounge from memory.
So were they real hydrangeas there then?
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, they're all flowers, and this panel work is quite interesting. It's all carved, and I think it's all from India, and beautiful carving. And we decorated that with gold leafing. So there was a big job to sort of do all the leafing. And this is the rugs. These are all from Kashmir. These silk rugs are beautiful.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
And this is yeah, just, you know, lots of little, you know, sort of touches here. Mother's all these little figurines and glasswork. So this is looking out. We're seeing at the reflection of the staircase going up, and this is the balustrade and around that. And this is the other furniture. It's in Indian furniture with carved.
Beautiful. Very regal.
Yeah, it's like a palace, you know. It's really that feel of a Maharaja's palace, you know.
Is it that the glasswork, the chandeliers, etc., are European?
So yeah, I think some of them were, you know, from maybe Eastern Europe, Bulgaria or somewhere. And some from Venice. I think there was like a mix.
She was my understanding is that Shri Mataji was very keen to promote artisan craftsmanship.
She was supporting a lot of the arts. She was very keen to promote it and to, you know, all the different arts in furniture, decorative art. You know, these carpets were amazing. There's a story about this particular carpet. So
Yes.
Shri Mataji was walking across the carpet, and every time she walked across it, the colors would change. It was like you know, sort of like the intensity of color became more. It's a silk carpet, so if you move brush silk, you'll see the change in color if you brush it one way and the other. But
Yeah.
as Mother walked across the carpet, then the colors would change, and I'd observed it once, and then I thought, you know, maybe I'm seeing things. And then the second time it happened, I was a little bit behind. I was just watching Mother walk across, and then the actual carpet changed color. And then she turned around and she said, yes, the carpet responds to my vibrations.
Amazing. Wow.
So it was pretty incredible when she said that. And
Yeah.
so this is all the balustrade work, and they were all carved, intricate carvings, so elephants and swans and beautiful, just amazing sort of carving of different peacocks. And if you
Peacocks.
look at the sort of flowers and, you know, all these different sort of things you can just see. But so much detail, Mother would go into the detail. And
Elaborate,
then we
intricate.
put
Yeah.
silk on the top of the, you know, up here, the gold paper.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you walk through and she's given it this is all, you know, decorated for sale. You know, she was trying to get
Yes.
an buyer interested. So this is a promotional video that she was doing. And we're behind the doors pulling them open as the camera came. And so we're kind of hiding behind the doors. So, you know, open it up now, you know, so it was kind of fun to do.
Brilliant.
Timing had to be good. So these sorts of shots Mother was directing. She said, now zoom into the vase, and you know, and this is Mother's bedroom. This is all silk. This wallpaper was all silk that she got from, you know, India. So the whole bedroom was covered in silk wallpaper, and beautiful furniture, and it was amazing in this room. It was just very, very, you know, intensity of vibrations. And above the room there was a rose garden. Mother had, you know, it's like a terrace on the top, and there was like a rose garden there.
I understand. She commented about the benefits of wallpaper and that it held vibrations. Am I right?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, the anything that's handmade, and these were specially loomed wallpaper, so it's all hand done, and it had this incredible vibration. It's all beautiful, you know. It was amazingly, you know, just elegant sort of finish, silk wallpaper, and these carpets are amazing. I mean, they were all beautiful silk carpets, and every time, as I said, the colors would always intensify with vibrations. What she said was that anything that's handmade
Yeah.
has vibrations, anything from natural materials. So anything that's made of wood, you know, gold has, you know, different, you know, coefficient of vibrations. So all these natural things are going to give, you know, retain vibrations and emit vibrations, you know, once they're vibrated. So I think everything in Mother's house was vibrating, and if you see, everything was natural wood. There wasn't any plastic anywhere, you know,
Yeah.
glass, you know, crystal, you know, all the things, all the bed covers, everything was
Crochet
all
bed covers of lace.
crochet bed covers, all linen, you know, wool, you know, all natural materials. So there was an emphasis on, you know, all this handwork, handicrafts, and handmade things, you know. And all the plaster work, I mean, a lot of the moldings were made by John Watkinson, who cast all those and lovingly, you know, put them out, and then Antonio was doing the gold leaf work on it, and there was just a lot of labor of love going into this over many years of the renovation work that was done, and we all enjoyed, you know, the time we had, because there was always something to do, you know. One time we were trying to, you know, Mother said we need to change the wallpaper. So we went out to a shop that sells wallpaper that Mother knew, and then there was all these sale on wallpaper. Like, normally wallpaper is quite expensive, so they had this sale on this wall. Every time we went to a shop, there was a sale on. So mother got all these rolls of wallpaper, and they were, there was 6 or 7 rolls of wallpaper. And John Watkins was saying, I don't know if that's going to be enough. She said, it'll be fine, So we got the wallpaper, and then when we did the wallpapering, it was exactly the right amount.
Wow.
It was just like, and then sometimes, there was a patch that, was a difficult area, different angles.
Yes.
And which John was trying to fit it there. And mother was, supervising me. She was saying, turn it this way, turn it that way. And John was convinced it was too small, or, it wasn't going to fit. And then mother said, okay, move it that way and put it up. So, and then it fitted perfectly. So little things like that, you have your idea of, what should work and what should not. But then when the goddess is telling you, you've got to do it. You don't question it's going to work, it's going to fit, And then one I remember a very, very funny story. We were all redoing, a section down the stairs to the lower basement level, and it was all, she wanted to change the wallpaper in that whole section going down. So she picked out, and we had some wallpaper there. It was a red color. So we stayed up, we were working, and when you're sort of in this thoughtless state of awareness, and you don't feel tired, you just keep working, and I think it was John, me, and Antonio, and maybe somebody else, and we were saying, oh, what's the time? Oh, it's midnight. Oh, we better have a cup of tea, So we worked all night, and we were really proud of ourselves. We finished. And then mother came down, and we thought, oh, we kind of finished the whole job. It was all done, ready to go. And then she looked at it and said, but you finished it. She says, oh, you did, you finished it. And she looked at it and she said, but the wallpaper is around the wrong way. And then we looked at it, and it was wallpaper that could have gone either way. But when mother said it was round the wrong way, then it was, it was around the wrong way. So we had to take it all off and change it. And then she said, actually, there's another wallpaper that I want to get. So we went to the shop and got the wallpaper, and then we ended up putting that wallpaper up, and it looked even better. So it was like, we made these mistakes, but then they turned out to be quite interesting. Mother subtly didn't want to put that there and change that. So it was quite interesting. So these are tapestries, I think, some places. So this is the stairs, she had all, ornaments going down the stairs,
Such rich, vivid colors.
There was a lot of different things, a lot of tile work from different countries, Portugal and other places, mirrors and it's just, there's so much in there. I mean, if you sort of look at the amount of tapestries and vases and mirrors, and it was all sort of, and very elegantly arranged, so
amazing. So had she can't possibly have gone out and actually bought each and individual furniture or curtain drape.
Everything she's done. Everything she's done. I'm going to speed that up. So yeah, I mean, it's it was a very special time, because a lot of these things just happen spontaneously, and but then there's obviously a plan mother has for everything. And you can see that spontaneously things work out, and we may not see the plan, but the goddess has obviously got a clear indication of what she wants and what she needs, and then you just have to be a blank canvas, so that you can do whatever she wants you to do and not think about it.
Yes.
The more you think about it, the worse it becomes, because you could be an obstacle for that working out. So sometimes people would, no, we got to do this, and then the right side comes up, and then nothing worked, So you got to be in that state. Excuse me, I'm just going to get some water.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll just pause it and we take a little break. Do you want that?
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, okay, I'll pause recording.
Sure.
Great. Thanks for regrouping again. And we'll play the video of Brompton Square again as you want. And please, can we have some miracle stories, shopping
Certainly.
stories, and laughing stories? Because from what other yogis, John Watkinson, Pat, Alan, Lewis, and so many others, they remember Danya. There's always moments where Shri Mataji makes it just such a light atmosphere, although there is such intense work going on, not just on a vibrational level. So if you'd please share with us those moments, that would be awesome.
Sure. So I think when Mother was preparing the house, there was always a lot of things going on. So little miracles around, like Mother getting the wallpaper and all this sort of stuff. I mean, it's simple things, but then you look at it and it's just like miraculous how this just works out. Everything just worked out with the rising damp and the problems she had with the rising damp and just giving vibrations around that. So these are again more. This is a tapestry. I think this was, or painting in reception area, I think. But anyway, we'd always have these moments of humor. Mother had bought, she went out and she bought sort of jackets for everybody and suits. So she had everybody that had been helping. So there was a group of us there, and Pat Anslow was there and Chris Marlowe was there. If you know Chris and Pat's sort of rounder and shorter, and Chris is very tall, Chris Marlowe. So we were in Mother's bedroom, and she said, I've got some suits for you." And then she gave one to Pat, and she gave one to Chris Marlowe. And she said, go and try them on, go and try them on. So she was sort of really keen for them to come and try them on. So Chris came down. I think Chris was first, and the suit was way too small. Like the trousers were sort of about maybe 20 centimeters from his ankles. They were up very high on his legs, so there was way too small, and the jacket was too short. So he came over to and Shimon said, "Now how is it? How is it?" And being English, he's saying, "Oh, it's fine, Mother. It's fine, Mother. You're very polite." And then Pat came over, and Pat's suit was way too big, and then he was doing the same. Oh, it's fine, Mother. It's fine, and Mother was just laughing. We were all laughing and laughing. And then she said, "It isn't a bit too big." "Oh, it's okay, Mother. It's not. It's all right. And it'll be fine, Mother." And she's just laughing and laughing. She said, "Now you swap with Chris, Pat. You swap with Chris, and then come and show me." And then so both of them, swapped suits, and then they came back, and everything was fitting perfectly. And we're just roaring with laughter because it was just such a funny situation. And then she said, "Mother," she said, "See the English? They're too polite. They're too polite. They'll never say anything." She said, "Look at that." And she was laughing and saying they were too polite. They just wouldn't say anything. So this is the dining room. This is the all the marble work that was done sort of on the floors, and underneath that was this coil pipes, copper pipes and heating. And this is where, along one of those sections, a bit further back in the corridor, is where the pipe had burst, or it had a little sort of crack in it, so it was just seeping out over time. And this is the wallpaper again. This sort of Mother's particular style of wallpaper she wanted. So every room has a theme. Everything was different about it. So it was really amazing how much sort of variety there was in the decoration of the whole house, and different, like there was a there was a carpet, and the room, she called it the jade room. So there was like a lot of jade and green, Chinese sort of Oriental Chinese sort of decoration, and there was a carpet which was sort of green. And she said, "This carpet is made by a realized soul." And she put her hands to the carpet, and the whole carpet color just intensified. And she said, "See, it had response to vibrations, more, the same when she walked across the carpet." But she said, "This one is even more intense." So just put her hands towards it, and then the colors just became more vibrant. And these are the sort of little things. And then at the end of the stair banister in the house, there was a dolok player, like a boy playing the dolok. And she walked past it and she said, "This isn't correct anatomically." So that it was quite a quite a an awkward way that they'd sculpted the scapula and the shoulders, and the boy sort of it wasn't quite correct. So mother said, "I need to change that." So she started giving vibrations to this sculpture, and I was standing up the top. Up a few stairs up, and I was looking down so I could see it very clearly. And there was a yogi at the sort of a few stairs down looking up. And then I could see what was happening. And it was like the wood was becoming like plastic. And mother was sort of carving it with vibrations. And then I could see the shape of the sculpture changing. And she said, "Do you see that? Do you see that?" I said, "Shri Mataji, it's a miracle." She said, "See, the vibrations can change matter." She said, "You have to understand that this is the source of everything. The vibrations are at the source, so they can change the matter at the atomic level." So she's giving vibrations and showing us how this was. And the yogi below was looking up, and he's a French guy who was doing the gold leaf work in the house, and he's watching it, and I could see. I wasn't sure if he actually saw it, but he was just saying, yes, mother," like, kind of, humoring mother, or sort of saying, yes, because mother's asking, "Did you see it?" He said, "Yes, mother, yes, mother." And then all of a sudden he saw it, and then he just went, yes, mother, I see it, He got so excited because he actually saw what was happening. And it was this amazing sort of sculpting that mother was doing on this wood. And I thought, wow. I said, "Mother, this is amazing miracles." She said, "No, it's just normal for me. For you it's a miracle. For me it's normal," because she said vibrations can penetrate matter, they can change matter. So this is what we have to understand as yogis. We have this tremendous power of vibrations. She said it's at the source. It's the source of the universe. It's the source of God's power and God's love. So we have to cherish them and use them in a positive, constructive way. So we have to, she said, it's so much more than the matter, because we're sort of beyond the matter in a way. And that's the vibrational frequency that just is much higher and ethereal. So it's a much more powerful force, penetrates into the matter and can change the molecular structure. She said water is like, can hold vibrations. So she said water is the best for treating any problems. She's vibrated water because it penetrates into the cells. So a lot of the problems with cancers and all these sorts of things of the body, you've got to treat it with vibrated water. And particularly when we grow food, we need to use vibrations to grow all the vegetables and fruits. If we can grow them ourselves, it's really powerful, because it's going to change the vibrational. It's the angle of the hydrogen and oxygen, the angle of the I would say the atomic angle, so they can absorb into the cells. As Mother was saying, the vibrations change all that. They make it easier for the water to be absorbed into your cells. So that was an amazing sort of miracles that happened. And then we have a lot of enjoyment, a lot of laughter. Mother's always very light. You always felt very light, and there's always funny people you'd see, and Mother's just like, "Look at that fellow," and she'd burst out laughing. What a sort of thing. And one day I was probably fairly new to London. It was sort of early on in the time, and I just had just a sports jacket. I didn't have any. Everyone was wearing suits, and I was thinking, I've got to go out and buy a suit, because I was only a student. I didn't have a lot of money, so I thought I better go find somewhere to have a suit. Then one day, Mother said to me, "So bring the car at 10 o'clock. We're going to do some shopping." So I brought the car, and I was driving the car, and not being, from London and not really knowing London that well, Mother was, Shri Mataji, because Antonio had to work, so he sort of said, "You need to drive Mother now." And so I have, Mother said, "Don't worry, I'll tell you where to go." So, I was just sort of getting directed by Shri Mataji, "Turn left here, turn right here." I was just driving, Mother knew where she was going, so I was kind of like, fairly naive in terms of knowing what London. I just sort of following what mother's instructions were, which was pretty easy. So we went to the East End, from Brompton Square to East End. So we got there, parked the car, and I opened the door for mother. She got out. We walked down the road a little bit, and there was a tailor shop. So we went into the tailor shop, and there was obviously the tailor knew her. And she said, "Hello, Mrs. Srivastava," really Cockney sort of, "What can I do for you today?" And she said, I want to buy a suit for this gentleman, this boy. And I said, "Shri, I pulled my ears, I said, "Oh, no, Shri, let me buy the suit." She said, "No, no, no, I'm your mother." And she said, "That's what you wanted. You wanted a suit." And because I've been, desiring a suit, thinking I've got to. So she bought me a suit. And and then a thought came into my mind, "Oh, I need a shirt." And she said, "And a shirt." And then the tie was there in my mind. She said, "And a tie." So every time I'd think of something, she would say a tie, a shirt. And then so I was sort of thinking, I was about to think about shoes, and I said, in my mind, I said, "Shri, let me buy my shoes at least," and she didn't say anything. But she knew exactly what's going on in your mind. That's why it was sort of like you have to be in thoughtlessness, because she could read your mind. She knows exactly what's going on in the mind. Every time you have a desire, she will fulfill it. So I had a desire for a suit. She gave me a suit. So it was really a special time. And then I put the suit on, and I felt so joyful because mother had bought me this suit, and I was driving I felt like I'm her chauffeur. I had to look the part. But
You must
a
cherish
couple
that.
of funny. Sorry.
Must cherish that suit.
Yeah, I still got it. I can't. I've got it. It's like I can't fit into it. It's too small for me now. But but I've got it there as as a memento. And then another funny story happened. So I drove mother to get some. I think we went to Sainsbury's or one of the department stores. She's looking for getting some overcoats for her grandkids. So she's trying to find woolen and cotton, and she said, I go into these department stores and they've only got plastic, all the nylon, and she said they don't have cotton and natural fibers anymore. They've got all these synthetic fibers. And she said, it's going to create so many problems. This plastic is going everywhere. She said, in the future, there'll be a big problem with plastics. And, now we've got all these problems with plastics, microplastics everywhere from those fibers that break off in the wash, and they go into the sea, and then the marine life gets, caught up with the plastic. She said, it's going to create so many problems in the future. And so she was looking around for, natural fibers and stuff. So anyway, we did the shopping, and then we went back. And when I'm driving back to South Kensington, Brompton Square, and we ended up in North Kensington. And I don't know how it happened, but somehow I went the opposite direction, and then we were driving around, and I was completely lost, and I couldn't work out what had happened. How did that happen? Because I knew the way. By that stage, I had sort of like an idea of where I was going and around London, so I kind of knew the way. But all of a sudden, I'm in. She said, "Go and ask somebody," and I asked somebody, and they said, "Oh, you're in North Kensington." So I came back. And I said to mother, "We're in North Kensington." She said, "North Kensington? Why are we in North Kensington for?" And we're driving around. She said, "You must find the way back." And then so we're driving around North Kensington. She was sort of talking. She said, "Well, maybe I'm here to vibrate this area." And then after a while, she said, now I know what happened." She said, "The deities played a trick on you because they didn't want me, because she had a diplomatic function to go to, right? And she said the deities knew that she didn't want to go. So they played a trick on me. So I got lost. So she had an excuse. And then by the time we got back, it was too late because CP had to go. He had to go on this, for this function. When he came back, he was really upset. He was extremely upset with, angry. And and then and she said, "This fellow got completely lost. I don't know what happened to him. He just we ended up in North Kensington. Can you believe it? This fellow just took me to North Kensington." So the next day, I heard mother say this, and I said, I went up to CP and I said, "Sir, I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry because I got completely lost." And, "Oh, no, 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 it's okay." And mother was standing behind, going, sort of smiling, and I said, "It's all my fault." And so I sort of tried to diffuse the situation a little bit, but there was always this sort of balancing act that mother was doing between the wife of Sir CP, as a diplomat's wife, all the functions she's got to attend. She said, "I hate these functions. These people are just horrible people. You have to shake hands with them, the horrible vibrations. They're having affairs with people, they're taking drugs, they're doing this." She said, "They're just awful people. So I don't want to have anything they're immoral." She was sort of telling me about all this immorality of the diplomatic community. I mean, they're all sort of, very immoral people. So sometimes, so she said, I shake hands with these people, and then they sit you next to some horrible person, and you've got to spend that, the evening sort of making small talk, and she said, "I really don't enjoy it at all." So these are the things she had to sort of do every day, and then running Sahaja Yoga, and going to, running tours and programs and all these things we did. And she had a private secretary, was Patty Prohl, who recently passed away, which is very sad. We had a lot of time together, and we went to America with Patty, and it was very special time, being with mother, and we were just sort of enjoying every minute that we had, the times that we'd share with mother. And it was a special times. And then David Prohl was helping to sell Brompton Square, so he was coming every day and talking to mother, what the progress was, what buyers he was able to line up. And we had one very interesting, where we were cleaning and finishing off some work, and then the doorbell rang, and they were the people coming to see. David was bringing these potential buyers through the house. And all of us were running down the stairs, and Shri Mataji, she came running down with us. We all snuck out the servants' door. So Shri Mataji came up the other side to get out of the house before the potential buyers came through. So it was so funny. We were all laughing and going up there, walking out of the servants' quarters, which was on the ground floor, and there was up to the ground level. So it was actually basement level. It's below the ground, the road, so it was off the pavement. So mother's running with us up the stairs. So did they see us? So lots of very, very sort of comical situations we had, in those days, with mother, but always joyful, always so much laughing, and she's just joy. You just felt a lot of joy being in that situation. And then another really nice story was, again, I'd been getting more confident to drive, and poor Antonio was working, and every so often he'd have to disappear to work at his business. So he's got he's doing restorations and picture frames and stuff. So he was very busy. He disappeared for a weekend, work the whole weekend, then come back, and then be there for mother. So these sort of alternating times, so I'd have to fill in the gaps when he wasn't around to drive mother, because he was driving mother mostly before. So then I tried to, mother said, "Now tomorrow we're going to Southall." So I had to, this A to Z, this little sort of paperback book about this big, I had to go through, and it's like, turn to page 30, and you're in page 12, and you got to go here, and then here, and then go, it's all over the place. So to sort of try and figure out where to go, so I was trying to memorize the route because I didn't want to get lost. And at that stage, I thought, I should be knowing how to get somewhere, like mother, I shouldn't have to bother mother sort of to find and direct it, let her to relax, and then I'll just drive. So anyway, I set off on the journey, and I'm trying to memorize, okay, I've got to turn this street, roundabout, church, I sort of memorize all the landmarks. I'm driving, all the way. We got to Southall, and then we did some shopping. And during the trip, mother was silent, so I was just sort of trying to remember things, and it was like my brain was sort of, trying to remember this route, all the places which we were passing, the landmarks, the roads, the road names. So so we got there, you know, and it seemed to take ages, like it seemed to take hours, like getting out to Southall from where we were at Brompton Square. So we arrived, and then there was this, it was very hard to get parking. So I managed to find a parking spot. And just down the road a little bit, there were these witches' hats outside of a house. And then this car of young Indian boys came, you know, and they had the sort of the Bhangra dancing going, and the sort of, you know, the sound system up high. Then a couple of guys got out of the car, and they moved the witch's hat, and this English guy came running out, the older English guy came running out and screaming at them and saying, "Oi, don't move them. This is for my son. He's coming. You know, you can't. This is his spot. You know." And these Indian boys are saying,
bollards.
yeah, you know, those witches' hats
Yeah,
they
the
have,
traffic
you
bollards,
know,
yeah.
and they're saying, look, you don't own the road, mister. This is, you know, public road. You know, you can't reserve anything. And he's saying, you Indians, you come here, you take our jobs, you do this, you do that. You know, so he's just a tirade of abuse to these young boys. And the three of you know, there's three of those. They all stood, you know, above him. They're quite, you know, strong young boys, young men. And then this guy was, you know, he saw that he was completely outnumbered, and he sort of retreated back and whinged and screamed. And then Shri Mataji was saying, look at this fellow. You know, the British come to take over India for 500 years. You know, they raped and pillaged the whole place. They took all the jewels out, all the wealth of India. And then, you know, we graciously let them go. We didn't complain. And you know, Indians come to this country. She said they work hard, they have businesses, and they do well. The children get educated. The parents work hard to put the children through the schools. She said they become accountants, they become lawyers, they become doctors. She said you know, she said, and these English, they're so lazy. They want to be on the dole. You know, they don't want to work hard. So she's saying, look at them, look at the way they behave. You know, so this was the theme of racism. You know, the mother was, you know, that whole talk. You know, and then it was a theme that kind of ran through this whole day. And we went shopping in Southall. I went to the butcher's, and then the butcher was making some comments in Hindi about me. And Mataji said, no, he's Australian. He's Australian. You know? So it was kind of like, you know, she was quite poignant about the comments about the Indians and the English, you know. So on the way back, she was telling me about how that the English, through their expansionists and this ego that made them sort of so aggressive in the world, she said it really created a big imbalance in the world with this right-sided aggression. She said they'll pay for it over time. So, you know, this is, you know, said now these lands, peoples of those lands are coming to live in England. So she said, you know, that'll change the dynamic of the place a lot, you know. And she was saying, you know, can you believe they tortured me? You know, they actually tortured. So she's telling me about this, you know, what they did to her in India. And she said we had to be liberated in order to have spirituality. So this was, I was just totally absorbed in the conversation. And we drove back. Didn't seem to take too long. And we arrived back at Brompton Square. And I just thought, wow, I didn't remember anything. I just drove, and I was just completely I didn't know where I was going. I was just driving. And then mother said, she sort of paused for a minute, and she was in meditation. And then she said to me, she said, oh, it's interesting. It didn't take very long to come back. And I said, yes, Shri Mataji, it didn't take long at all. And she said, she said, I watched you on the way there. She said, your mind was full. You were worried about, you know, getting lost, and you were memorizing the route. And she narrated my thought patterns. You know, you saw a church there, you saw a roundabout here, and she sort of went through it. And it was like she was reading every thought that was going on in my mind all the way to Southall. And she said, on the way back, you were completely thoughtless. You were in blissful state. Your focus was on me. And she said it didn't take any time at all, because she said time is an illusion.
Wow.
And I just went, wow, you know, but she demonstrated it. She said, see, your mind creates this idea of time, and this, it's all an illusion. And then she said, you know, it can stand still, you know, and she can stop and start time. She said, you know, this is how it works, you know.
Brilliant.
So she said, in the state of thoughtlessness, is basically it's timeless, you know. So this was very profound, and I just was completely blown away by this experience. And when you meditate on it, you sort of feel the vibrations. It's really just so powerful when mother gives you those realization in terms of what's happening reality. You know, what we think is reality is an illusion, you know. So this is all part of the training, and that basically led me to, you know, sort of all of the understanding, the deeper understanding of vibrations, how, you know, how things work with, you know, or you're just a witness to this play of life, and the more you get involved in it, the more drama you have. So it was quite interesting because, you know, it was the only way you can survive when you're with Shri Mataji is being completely surrendered in a witness state. Because I saw people come and go, which were just they have ego and they think too much, and then you could feel it in their consciousness. They're just disturbed, you know. And Shri Mataji really helped a lot of people in those days. She worked, you know, we were at a public program. This person in a wheelchair came up, and mother gave them vibrations and healed them, and they could stand up, and they took the cripple, you know, so they started walking, you know. It was a miraculous thing. So she did a lot of, you know, curing, and there was, you know, all these miracle things that happened. So we did a tour of England. So I was sort of involved, you know, helping to do the filming in different parts because I was doing video work in those days and traveling around. So that was another interesting time that we traveled all the way, you know, this UK tour with mother in different parts and public programs she was doing, and, you know, all these you know, miracle things happening, like curing people. And, you know, one program I remember I was, you know, sitting at the back, and then she sort of looked at me and said, oh, she said, oh, the yogis need to give vibrations to the new people. So, you know, I thought she was looking at me, so I moved down to behind somebody to help to give them vibrations. And then I started giving this guy vibrations, and he's, you know, and then I felt all the negativity in his guy. It just jumped on me, and I was just immediately had a splitting headache. I felt like vomiting. I felt like all this. And he said, oh, I feel amazing. This is amazing. Oh, wow. And I was sort of falling back, and I was sitting there, and I just had to go and retreat. I was just, you know, trying to clear myself because I was going to go back in the car with mother. And I thought, oh God, you know, I had this migraine headache coming on, this throbbing headache. And then anyway, the program went on a long time because mother was seeing people, you know, she was working on people at the end of the program. It like went on for hours, and I was sitting there in agony with this headache. Anyway, finally, you know, mother had finished, and then, you know, we left. And I was sitting in the front, Antonio was driving, I was sitting in the passenger seat, and mother was behind me, and I was sort of, head was throbbing. And then all of a sudden, mother leant forward and she went whack on the back of my agya, and I literally felt stuff drop out of my agya, and the headache went. And she said, "What have you been doing?" And I said, "Oh, Shri Mataji, I gave vibrations to this new person." She said, "No, no, no, no." She said, "You shouldn't give vibrations to, you know," she says, "You're too clean. You'll absorb all their negativity. So, you know, you mustn't give vibrations at that point." You know, she was saying, you know, you're too clean, you know, you'll just absorb it like a sponge. She said, you absorb all his negativity. And then so she took me back, and then she mixed up some ginger and icing sugar in a little cup, and so a little bowl, and she mixed it up with her hands, got a spoon and started putting it into my mouth. And then I went, you know, the ginger, it just blew me away. My eyes were watering, nose was running. She's laughing. She said, "See, it's going to work it out, you know."
Incredible.
So these are, you know, these are things. And then another time she said, you know, I need to do some ghee up your nose. So she literally heated up some ghee, and then I brought the bowl, and then she got a spoon and started putting it up. Put your head back. And so mother's standing behind me with this spoon and putting spoonfuls of ghee up, and it's going in my nose. I'm drowning in ghee. It's going all over my eyes and in my ear. So I'm going, it's going to help you. And then another time she gave me a head rub. That was that was pretty amazing, you know.
What was that like?
She's got such strong hands, you know, like she just, like, it felt like her fingers were going into my skull, you know, like it was going deep down and just pulling my hair and pulling my ears, and really rough, really strong, you know, strong, and putting the oil on. I was covered in oil, and then, but afterwards, my head was just like, it felt like I didn't have the top of it was just open, you know. Sarastra was completely open, and she said, "Ah, there we go. That's better."
Head massage from the goddess. What better?
It was very special time. And then other times, you know, you get to rub mother's feet. That was the other special times you had when she said, you know, you can rub my feet. And then you're pressing as hard as you can. And she said, press harder, press harder. And you literally, you know, every muscle and fiber of your body is sort of trying to put pressure. And then you feel these feet is just rock solid, you know. She said, oh, press, you know, or work on her Vishuddhi, or depending on press, like, you know, sometimes you just feel it's like a rock. After a program, we have to work on, she'd often find that she's taken on all the problems of the audience, and then you've got to, you know, take out the vibrations in certain chakras. She said what happens is that she's emitting all these vibrations and then it kind of builds up. She sucks in all the butters and negativity, and then takes a while for it to work out. So these sorts of things, you know, you're working on her and clearing her. You know, I mean, you're taking vibrations out of her, so she's not in pain. So, but she said, you know, that her body is absorbing all this. She doesn't understand, you know, you don't understand, or my body is just working all the time, 24/7. So whenever she goes to a place, she's absorbing all of the negative stuff in that place to clear the, you know, all these souls would be coming, these dead souls. She said there's just so many hanging around, you know, especially in Europe, like cities like Vienna, and where there's been war, there's been a lot of, you know, in Munich and other places in Germany around, a lot of dead spirits floating around, you know.
Yeah.
So these are sort of like, you know, things that you kind of, you know, insights you have of, you know, how mother worked, and, you know, the constant, you know, things she sacrificed, and then pain that she's in, you know, we've got no idea how much pain she was in, and she just, you know, bore everything. She said it's like having a crucifixion every day, you know. That's the sort of pain she was having, you know, with working out all these. And then so that's why yogis around her really needed to be working on themselves and meditating and clearing themselves out, because you don't want to burden your mother, you know. You don't want to make her be a burden for her, you know, if you have any you know, chakra problems or things like that. So it was very intense time as well, you know. You've really got to keep yourself in good balance, you know. So after that experience of absorbing that activity, I was a bit more careful, you know, not to expose myself. But I was very sensitive, you know. I was hypersensitive to vibrations when I'm walking. I look at someone, if I get catch, I get a headache, you know. So it was like instant. So then I prayed, Mother, please make me stronger. You know?
Sorry.
Yeah.
How did you get out of that hypersensitive state? What did you do?
I prayed to Mother to make me
That's it.
stronger. That's all I said, Mother. She said, basically, if you're a little bit left-sided, you're more sensitive. So I was maybe a little bit on the left side, then I got more in the right side, and then came back in the center, and then I was okay. But you know, it's just the process that works out. You know, you move to the left, you move to the right, you come back to the center, or you move to the right, you come back to the center, or move to the left. Sometimes you move back and forth, but it's like the pendulum movement back and forth.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I had to become more resilient, you know. And I think that's something, you know, when you're very sensitive to vibrations, you suffer, you know. You know. And one time I said, you know, Mother said, you know, I said, you know, I can feel, she said, I feel that all the time when you're feeling all these pain and this and that. She said, that's basically what I'm feeling all the time, you know, because I'm working out all these problems for everybody, you know, the world, you know. So whenever she sees the yogis, you know, she will suck in their problem of agya, the Vishuddhi. That's why she said that Vishuddhi was horrible in the West, and particularly Catholic countries, the suffering she had with the left Vishuddhi. So you know, you work on the left Vishuddhi, take the vibrations out. It's like cement, you know, if it's a rock, you know, you press it, press harder, and it's like so, you know, so much pressure there, you know, and she still didn't feel it, and you're kind of, you know, pressing as much as you can, you know. But these are things that sometimes you don't realize, you know, and I guess what I felt was that we should have been more alert about trying to give mother time to, for her physical body to recuperate, giving her time out so she spends time away from all the traveling and everything we did. So that was my, insight. I felt that, we really needed to be more alert about our own mother, about how she's working it out. So often, we take it for granted, oh, she's the goddess, but the physical body is still there, but we don't recognize the magnitude of what she's working out in her physical body. She said, "You're all cells in my body." What does that mean? I mean, it's hard to conceive, but this is a divine being, and we're all, components within that divine body. So we're all cells, and if the cell's cancerous or problems, it's going to cause problems to the goddess. So I don't think we really understand how, the I guess what that implies, because it's kind of like, we're in the body of the divine. What does that mean? But when you start to sort of look at it from mother's perspective, and how, she's working out all these problems for everybody, and then on a global scale, and not just Sahaja Yoga, but a global scale, all the things that are going on, so kind of puts it in perspective,
Yeah,
but now with the instruments, we have to be at that level as well. We can't be, embroiled in our own personal sort of dramas and problems, because this is just bringing our own frequency down, our own vibrational level down. And I think we have to, recognize the power that we have, that she's given us, because she said, many times, I've given you all my powers.
She has,
and then she always said, you have to assume your powers. You can't just sort of, hide away and not assume your powers. So in that time, after Brompton Square, I went back to Australia, and there was a lot of problems in Australia, and I walked into it like a hornet's nest of, problems. And I came back and I thought, the leader's off, his wife was off, the whole collective was going off in a different tangent. They're all mesmerized. And it was a bit of a, shock for me to come out of this beautiful cocoon of vibrations into this, hellhole of, void, and all this agya and void and stuff. And you kind of realize that, Sahaj Yogis have to be always alert about, not going off in the right or the left, to always be in the central path, because it's very easy for people to get caught up and go off, particularly around when if there's influences coming from the left side, then people get mesmerized, and lots of problems can happen, in a whole collective. So I think that's the challenge for us as yogis. We have to be alert, aware, and be conscious about, our own connection, because when the connection's not strong, you can deviate, you can go into different, go to the left side or the right side.
It resonates with the story that Kay and Kingsley, we were talking to them a few weeks ago, and they were talking about this mesmerism that took place, and the collective was led away from Mataji.
There's some good examples of it, when you come into that from, like you're with mother, and then all of a sudden you're thrust into this, and you see the whole collective is caught up.
Which year was this then? This was 1984, 85?
Yeah, 84, 85 when it came, 85 when I came back after the India tour. So I came back to Burwood. I was staying in the ashram there, and the leader and the leader's wife were completely off the planet, and then all the people around them were caught up, So it was kind of like I'm thrust into this, kind of like this vibrational cesspit. I felt awful, like really caught up, and it was a struggle, because you long for that time with mother, and then you see how people are behaving, and they're not, they just sort of, I don't know what they're often this sort of ego trip, and then the void was caught up. So sometimes yogis go off, and their ego and the void, and then negativity works through them, or they get mesmerized. They channel stuff, and then pretty soon the whole collective can get mesmerized, But I think that whole time was pretty bad. And then, I was just shoe beating it, and I was suffering, my vibrations were sort of suffering, to try and work it out. But then I thought, okay, I'm here. I've got to, make the most of it, work it out. I just got married, and then, you know, I was, you know, sort of
Were
trying
you
to
there were
navigate
two of
that
you?
in India. After
Okay.
the India tour, I sort of came over to England a bachelor, and then came back to India, and then got married, and then we started a family fairly quickly, you know. So that sort of kept me in Australia for a long time. So I was just living in an ashram, and then we sort of stayed, you know, in that in collective situation. So
This was in
after
Sydney then?
I was in Sydney, yeah. So I came back to Sydney. I really grew up in Sydney, and then I came back to Sydney, and I was living in Burwood, but the vibes had changed, as I said, that, you know. And then I moved to another ashram after that in Chatswood, and then eventually to a place called Cremorne, which is, you know, on the north side, and then to Annandale, off Annandale ashram. Then after that to a Gordon ashram, which is in the north. So I moved all over the place, you know, in different ashrams, and I was kind of like the coordinator or leader of the ashram at the time. And then having to deal with the sort of leadership problems which were there at the time, and then shoe beating and doing, you know, bundans and praying to Mother, please, Mother, work it out. And then at one stage, I just felt, you know, I've just got to go and tell Mother. But then when I meditated, she said, no, it's not time. Like, I just had this insight that it's not the right time. So obviously these things are all part of her play, and we just have to witness it and not react to it. Because I was getting reactive, and I thought, well, I've just got to be more detached about it, because she has a plan and she's working this out. So from this, people will either they'll, you know, come back into the center, or they'll spin out completely. So spun out the leadership, and some of the people around the leaders got completely spun out. The leader's wife was pretty bad, and so she got spun out. And then after that, it sort of calms down, and then, you know, then another cycle happens, and then you'll see, you know, more dramas playing out. But it's when you're in an ashram, I think one of the good things it does is that it makes you more aware of, you know, different personalities and how to deal with different personalities, you know, left-sided people, right-sided people, people that are with mental illness, drug addicts, you know, all sorts of combinations of different things, you know. When you live in this collective situation, we've got everything, you know, thrown in there in the mix. So you have to learn how to be able to navigate and try to, you know, keep yourself in balance, not react to this stuff, and just try and help them as much as you can, you know, whatever vibrational support you give, and try to keep yourself in balance, so you don't get caught up with it all. Because I think leadership is always a challenge for people, because, you know, in those days, Mother said, you know, you don't challenge your leader, and the leader's up here, and people were sort of, you know, some leaders were very aggressive and right-sided, you know. But I think, as Mother said at the time, that it was necessary to bring, you know, to discipline people, bring people up, you know. Not that I was aggressive and right-sided at that time. I was kind of like, just, you know, I didn't want to be the leader. I was always sort of on that side. I just wanted to run away from it sometimes. I guess before, I was up in a cave somewhere in the Himalayas meditating, and I didn't have to worry about all this stuff.
It must have been pretty tough being having a young family, being young parents, newly married, being a leader. How are you sort of juggling all those roles?
I never took it that seriously. I think that's probably why I wasn't sort of, I guess, sort of, I said, Mother, you're doing this, you know, I'm not really the leader. You know, I'm just there, you know, whatever I can do to make things work out. I just try to be as I guess balanced as possible, you know. And then we had a lot of fun. I think that's the thing, you know. I didn't take it so seriously, you know. Like, I was never that. I was always stirring people up and having a lot of fun. I'm kind of like, if people know me, I'm kind of like always joking and having fun with people, and, you know, teasing people, and just that Krishna quality, you know, that Vishuddhi, you're always joking and prodding people. I never could take it that seriously, you know, to be honest. And I think that's always keep you in balance, you know. You're not you're never too serious about it, you know. And then, you know, I never lost sight of, you know, who Mother is, you know. I mean, you know, I think those experiences that I've had are just so profound, and they're so part of me that I could never doubt anything. The doubtless awareness was there from a very early age, you know. Like, from the very beginning, I had this constant feeling of this, Shri Mataji as being, the goddess, and understanding that feeling that I've served her and been with her. So this is kind of like part of how I felt. I couldn't separate, and couldn't sort of, how would I describe it? It was just innately built within me, and I know what's right, what's wrong. I could see very clearly, if people were off, the leadership was off, I could see it straight away. And that's the trouble, because I see it, and I know it. It's like innate, and I can see when things are going, off on a different tangent, and that made it harder in a sense, because I could, have to witness things more, because I at one stage I was sort of very reactive, and I thought, no, I've got to be just witnessing, because in my meditation, Mother was telling me, no, just it's all part, I know everything. That's the thing.
She
Mother
knows
should know this, Mother should know that, and there's a lot of people which feel, people mistreated Mother and did this and did that. But the thing is that this is Mother's, she's the goddess. I mean, this is a play that works out. So in a way, everybody is playing their role. And there's no way that none of this is happening randomly. That's what I feel, like it's all part of her play. Some people made mistakes. There's obviously, there's mistakes that have been made, and I think, this complexity of the family as well, it makes it more interesting, we could say. And I think that's one thing Mother made me very, very clear to me, that the family are not divine. And this idea that, I think some people think, oh, the family is divine, CP is an incarnation of Shiva and all this. It's just, Mother told me exactly, at the time, she told me, not, all sorts of things. And I won't say it publicly, but I know that, people have to realize that this divinity is not there. I mean, they're good people, they've obviously had their role to play, but they're archetypal. I mean, it says that like archetypes playing a role in this play of the Adi Shakti, and they basically there for a reason for this play, and you've got, some good things, some bad things that come of that as well. And I think yogis have to be a little bit more discriminating to see, that they shouldn't be elevating anyone. I mean, of course, we have respect, but we shouldn't be putting them up to this deification, which I think some yogis do, and I think that's
a very
always
simple thing, actually. It just reminds one of Sant Kabir's Doha, where he says, Guru Gobindo khade kake log lagum pao, Balihari Guru Apne Govindiya Bata. So, like you're saying, our relationship is with Shri Mataji, who is the divine, who showed us the way to connect with the divine. And so, yes, love and respect for everyone, but the connection, the divine connection, is Shri Mataji, of course.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing, being with Mother, that's one thing that she always, gives you that awareness, that, everything coming through her, I mean, I'll tell you a little story. I did something for, with the house was being renovated, there's all sorts of things going on, painting and wallpapering stuff. And CP asked me, he said, can you, Mr. Alex, can do something in my room, because Mother was doing everything in the house around, but not his bedroom. So I think he felt a little bit left out, that Mother wasn't doing anything in his bedroom. So he asked me, can you come and do something, so painting, and this needs painting, that. So I just went up there and I did what he asked me to do.
Yeah.
I didn't think anything of it, but Shri Mataji, when I came down, Shri Mataji said to me, because his room was on the floor above Shri Mataji's room, and I came down after I finished it all, and she said to me, why are you doing this work for him, And I said, oh, he's asked me to do. And she said, who is your guru? I said, you are Shri Mataji. She said, why are you doing anything for him? Did I say you could? And I said, no, Shri Mataji. I pulled my ears. I said, I'm so sorry. She blasted me. And she said, you don't know who he is. You don't know who he was. You said, you follow him and you'll be out of Sahaja Yoga in no time. That's what she said to me. And I was like shocked. You said, go and beat him with shoes. Every day, beat him with shoes. So I was, shoe beating him, because, this is, Mother's telling me I was just down there shoe beating, because I was shocked, I thought, what? And I felt like, wow, this has showed me something, you know, like mother sort of giving me this blasting, just roasting, and I felt really bad, you know. It's the first time mother had sort of been like that, and she was quite upset, you know, and quite angry with me, and you know, kind of took me aback a little bit, and then I reflected on that, and you know, at the time, you know, it sort of, you know, didn't occur to me, but later on, I realized, you know, how this relationship, you've got to be so careful, because he kept asking me to do stuff for him, and he always wanted me to you know, to do little things, you know. I just have to politely yes, yes, and then I not do it, you know. So it's a bit of a tricky dynamic.
Over
Mother
time.
said, don't do anything for him. You mustn't do it, mustn't follow, don't listen to him. You know, so it's like very, very clear to me at that time, you know, and I sort of course, I'm very polite. I mean, I'm not going to, you know,
Yeah.
say anything. It's in his house. So as always, it's a very tricky sort of situation, but I had to politely pretend, you know, not to, you know, yes, yes, and then not do it. But all these sort of things, and for me, it was you know, a little bit that dynamic was a little bit more tricky to work when I was staying there, you know.
Interesting.
This is really amazing that you've shared this with us, because as time goes by, there is sort of that clarity straight from Shri Mataji, that direction that she gave you. I think more and more people need to know that.
And I think it's so important at this point in time, because a lot of people, you know, I have a lot of respect for the family. I mean, the mother's family, we have to have that innate respect. But at the same time, we have to also understand that you know, we have to, Shri Mataji comes first. She is the goddess. She is the one we're worshipping. We're putting all attention. We shouldn't be elevating the family to anywhere near where Shri Mataji is. I mean, they're, you know, much, you know, at a much lower level than that. And we have to be aware of that, and never stray from that, because I know that some people, you know, putting the photograph of CP next to mother's altar and things like that. So I kind of a bit shocked that you know, people are sort of, you know, deifying family members, but but as I said, you know,
yeah,
the
it
mother's
is.
family,
It
we
is
have to
what it
respect.
is, isn't it? It's Shri Mataji, and that's Shri Mataji's family. That's her business. That's over there.
Yeah.
Because
it's not so easy, because in India, for example, I'm from India. I know in India you kind of make everything is centered around the family, you know. So yes, Shri Mataji is there, but it's also like, I mean, we met Sadhna Didi when we were at International Sahaj Public School in Dharamshala, and she's lovely, so loving, like a mum, you know, and you can feel the love and vibrations and everything. But yeah, it's just to sort of remind ourselves yet again that it's all emanating from Shri Mataji,
Exactly.
and
Well, look, they're you know, they're lovely people. I mean, you know, I you know, they're really gentle, loving, kind. You know, you know, there's nothing. You know, there's that I've you know, spent a lot of time with them. You know, they're very respectful. You know, they have that quality. You know, that's real quality. You know. And it's sad that both sisters are sort of, you know, got this conflict together, but individually they're both very sweet and loving. You know, they've got those qualities, you know, of Shri Mataji. And I think, I mean, it's just a Maya. I mean, I couldn't imagine how, you know, how to this whole Maya of being part of the family, and then, you know, she's your mother or she's a grandmother. I mean, I mean, it must be so difficult for you know, for them, in a sense, you know. And then, you know, Sahaja Yoga's grown so much over the years. You know, when in those days when we were there, it was, you know, it was smaller. You know, it was like more. Mother had direct contact. She knew everybody. So that's the other thing that I found incredible, is that she knew everybody, like every yogi she knows. And she said, "I know you from your Kundalini." But she'd ask about the family. How's your father? And is your father better? I mean, she knew all the things which were happening around different people, you know, and she'd be able to work on their problems and help them. But the attention for detail of individual problems that they have just astounded me. I mean, she's just penetrated into the roots of where that person is at that particular time and how they needed to be, you know, what they needed to do, you know. And that loving quality of a mother is just, incredible, you know, and this compassion she had, you know, she's working day and night, and that's the thing that, you know, when you're with her, I found it hard to keep up. I mean, I was a young, you know, 23-year-old, and I was exhausted. I mean,
Yeah.
and Mataji would go from country to country,
Yeah.
and you know, and having sort of all these experiences, and then she would, you know, arrive at the next country full of, you know, energy and vitality, and then all the people would look after her in that country, and then they'd be exhausted, and the mother would go to the next country, and the same thing would happen, you know, and she would travel all around, you know, these different countries, constantly traveling and giving realization programs, and we never gave up. It never stopped. You know, the intensity of that was, it was a phenomenal, you know, and traveling to North America and doing programs in North America, traveling around Europe, you know, going to India, traveling around India, giving realization, you know, programs, you know, and we forget about, you know, Shri this, she's in her 60s, right? And this intensity of her work was just so awesome. I mean, it's hard to imagine that anybody physically capable to do any of that, even if you're, you know, we couldn't keep up, you know, young people couldn't keep up, you know.
Yeah.
So it was a, you know, really incredible effort, and the sheer you know, the vibrations that come with her every time she coming from one place to another. You just feel this incredible ball of you know, vibrations going out, penetrating every yogi, going into the whole environment, going to that whole country, and this is the dynamic that she brings, you know, and you see that divinity working out. You know, it's phenomenal. You know, around her, you just feel like a complete bliss casually, because you're in a total cushion of vibrations. It's like a bubble,
Yeah.
but you're just in that, and you never want to leave that, you know. You just want to stay in that blissed out state all the time, you know.
Yeah.
But then she said once, she said, you know, if you're at the, I said to her mother, well, why can't I just stay at that blissful state? She said, because you need to do the work. You need to be out there. You're my instrument. You have to be doing, giving realization, because that's our job. You know, we're to emancipate humanity, and then we have to work it all out, you know. So no shortcuts, you know. We have to,
no, you can't hide
keep
away.
So I mean, that's the experience of being with Mother. You know, when you're traveling with her to different countries, and then you see all the amount of time and effort she puts in to the programs, to the new people, to the yogis, and every little detail, you know, marriages, you know, resolving problems, troubleshooting, helping children, you know, working out country leaders, you know, like so many things, just managing everything, you know, and then seeing how she's managing, you know, the family, her family, and then the wife of a diplomat, you know, they're doing all those things. So it's just this multi-dimensional sort of things going on, and then the universe, what she's doing on a subtle level, you know. We were sort of joking when she was packing to go to India, she pulled out all the suitcases, you know, and we unpacked the suitcases, all the saris, like just so many suitcases full of sari, these big Samsonite, you know, cases, you know, these old Samsonite cases just full of saris. So we're moving everything around, putting saris here, moving, you know, opening up one empty one, moving saris to another one. Just goes on for a day, like, you know, a few hours of doing this, then close it up, I'll put it back. And then next day, the same thing, you know, moving these saris around. And we're kind of thinking, you know, what's going on, you know? It's like this must you know, this must be, you know, organizing the universe. There's some subtle things are working out. We have no idea, but then you feel that something momentous was going on, you know, in the world. You know, things are working out somewhere, you know, we didn't have no idea. But these are the sorts of, you know, things you see mothers doing, and you have to be completely detached, because any person who was a little bit sort of thinking about it, why we just moved all this yesterday? Why are we doing this again? You know, you'll be sort of getting upset with it, you know, wondering why mother's doing that. Why is mother doing that? You know, but you just have to be completely in detachment, witness state, and then, you know, it's enjoyable because you just, you know, moving things, you know. Another really sweet story was I just remembered there was a CP had a servant called Gajin Singh. He was a little short little guy, and Shri didn't like him. I mean, he was causing her, you know, he's doing things to annoy her, you know, like he was. And she said, he's taking my shoes. He's taking my. So basically, she said, he's hidden them somewhere. And what the guy was doing was stealing her shoes and taking the shoes out to sell in the market.
Oh,
Wow, gosh. This is in
So
Brompton Square.
yeah, he wasn't a yogi. He was like a servant that CP had, like a manservant, you know. And he wouldn't do things for mother. Mother would ask him. He wouldn't. He would only do things for CP. He was a really, you know. And then so anyway, one day she said, we have to find the shoes, you know. And so we're looking all around, and then we're walking past. There was a big chest at the, you know, underneath the stairs, you know, like as we go on the basement level. And she said, have a look in there. And then I opened up the chest, and all his shoes were there. And it was like opening up a window of a breeze, or, you know, it just came blasted me. And I sort of went, wow. And she sort of, I looked at mother, and she sort of wobbled her head, and she said, the shoes are the best because the feet are in the shoes. And then she said, take them back to my room, because she had this, you know, cabinet with all the shoes.
wow.
So I took every pair of shoes, put it to my heart, and I took it up, and one by one, like there was like 12 pairs of shoes, and I did that, you know, like for a long time. I was just enjoying the vibrations, but you know. And then she said to me, "Go and beat him up, beat that servant," you know. So I had to go down, and in the, like, he's a little fellow, and then I picked him up and I pushed him against the wall, and I said, "Don't you ever do anything against my mother? I'll kill you," you know. And he's so, and so I, you know, I shook him around, and I didn't beat him, but I just scared him.
Put the fear
I
of
didn't.
God in him.
I just scared him, and so he was a little, you know, a bit wiser for that. You know, he made sure that he wasn't doing anything, and we know you're stealing, and he, you know. So I said, you know, you don't know what you're doing. You'll be burning in hell, you know. So I sort of scared him, you know. But these sort of, you know, around mother, there's all these little dramas which work out. Sometimes you see people doing crazy stuff, you know. What's amazing is, you know, how people have tried to steal and defraud mother. You know, I couldn't believe that, you know. Some of the leaders long, you know, back in the early days, you know, taking money and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
That was a real eye opener, you know. Like I thought, God, how could they do that, you know?
The
It's
negativity
human
creeps
beings,
in, isn't
human
it?
beings are capable of anything.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's the problem, you know. I think we can see, you know, and that's why around mother, you know, you've got to be very, very, you know, clear, and keep your balance, keep your attention on mother, keep your vibrations good, because, you know, and anything we do, if we go off, we have to sort of always bring ourselves back to the center and not deviate, you know. It's very easy for people to get caught up with stuff, you know. And there's a lot of, you know, all this sort of stuff going around, you know, like I guess we could say the movement of yogis and different places, and that's another story. I don't know if we have time, but you know, there's another chapter of this. Maybe we can do it another
We
time,
will
or
do another one because we would like to ask you about how Shri Mataji directed you to take Sahaja Yoga to other countries as well.
yeah. Will we do that another session, or yeah?
It's up to you. Another session?
Yeah, I think it's appropriate. Why not?
Are you
Yeah,
up?
I don't know how much time. I mean, we've been talking for quite a while. I mean, yeah, that's another saga in the chapter of my journey with, you know,
Yeah.
and I can see the preparation for my work, or my say mother's work, to get me to go to Hong Kong and work out China.
So before we progress on that one, I wanted to ask you, because when you came to Sahaja Yoga, you were a student, you were young and so close to mother, getting directions, and you shared with us how that strict discipline of getting up at 4, 5 in the morning meditating, shoe beating, meditating, and then going to uni, doing your work, and then coming back, evening meditation, doing your Sahaj work, and evening meditation, Aarti, and that sort of helped you. Can you elaborate more on for the students of today who are actually grappling with a lot of info overload, but that is part of their curriculum, and if they don't do it, then
Yeah.
How to kind of handle that in your
Well, I
experience?
feel that I mean, the biggest challenge you've got, I mean, it's a juggling act because you've got so much stuff. I mean, when you write a thesis, you've got all this research to do, and then it involves a lot of time and effort. And I think what you've got to do is just structure your time well, plan your time, plan your day, so that you can always have time for meditation. And meditation in the morning is best, because then you have the clarity of the mind, and then you go to uni, you absorb more, you understand more. And then, you know, the negative sort of, I mean, I found uni to be, when I got realization after I went back to uni, it was like I walked in the gate, it was like a bolt of lightning hit my head, and I got immediately this horrendous headache, and I had to run away. And I couldn't go back to uni for about, you know, 3 or 4 weeks because I just kept getting headaches. Walk into the place, get a headache. I couldn't bear it. Go back, clear out, go back again. So then I had to pray to Mother, please give me the strength so that I can withstand this onslaught of negativity, because it was really, I could feel that there's some, the left Swadhisthana and the, you know, the Swadhisthans were, you know, always caught, and Agya was always caught. And I thought, you know, this is a video, it's not pure knowledge. What we're learning is not pure knowledge. And this is the challenge we have, because as a student, you've got to, you know, read all these textbooks and stuff, and you've got to go through all these subjects. And a lot of it's just rubbish, you know, it's not really, it's not the truth. I mean, it's just, but you know, you're
You've
doing,
got to go through that.
you've got to go through that. You've got to sort of, you know, but I found getting into a routine, you know, is really key. Making sure you meditate every day. You come back, you foot soak every day is really important, because then that clears you, that takes the negative vibrations of the day, of whatever's going on. And, you know, when I was quite sensitive, like I was saying before, I mean, I had to do a lot of clearing, you know, every day, you know, just to sort of maintain the ability to go to uni, because the vibes there were pretty heavy. And so a lot of prayer to Mother, please, you know, I prayed Mother to sort of help me with the thesis, you know, and when I felt this, I think writing to Mother's good. You put a, you know, if there's got any challenges, write a letter, put it on the altar, and then just surrender the problem. And I think that's what we have to do with shoe beating as well, to do things regularly, because it often these challenges come, you know, with, you know, stuff that we've got to do, assignments we've got to do, you know, exams we've got to sit, all these sorts of things. But when you look at it, it's just, you've just got to have the clarity of mind that when you start studying, that you're in the best frame to absorb the information. And that's what I learned from my meditation, is you're better at learning when your mind is in thoughtlessness, right?
Yes.
Your mind, when you start with that process, it may, you know, get a bit uggerish during the process, but then you clear out and you get back to that sort of thoughtless state. So it resets the brain, so the brain's more receptive, and you can you know, think clearly, and you can think more concisely. So I think that's the thing I learned, you know, and then organizing yourself, you know, making sure you've got the discipline. So self-discipline is very important, you know, and I think that's the advice for younger people going through this same process, is you've got to, nothing is achieved without some level of effort. Meditation's effortless, but then you have to do a little bit of organizing so that you get the chance to do the meditation. And I think the challenge is getting into a regular meditation. I think that's always been the challenge. But if you live in an ashram, which I did, the discipline is created in the ashram environment. So that was always helpful. But sometimes it's challenging, because you got, you know, dynamic of an ashram, distractions, you've got, you know, lots of things happening. You've got to do your chores and things like that, you know, wash the dishes, do the, you know, do the vacuuming.
That's why we moved out the ashram.
Clean the pots, you know.
Yeah, the washing up.
Or do the washing up, you know. So, you know, if you have somebody that's that can create a roster in their collective living. They do a roster, and
They do, yes, yeah, rotas, yeah.
So we had a very good discipline roster, and a German lady wrote the roster. So she was kind of, she was the one, she was the one in charge of all the stuff. So you answer to her, you didn't want to get on her bad side, So we had this discipline. I think it's really good. But when you're by yourself, I mean, it's a bit more challenging. You need to have self-discipline. And I know that if you put in the time, then you'll definitely reap the rewards. Because certainly I did, because I went from an average student to the top student, won an award, got offered a job straight away. So I know that it works. I've had that.
It definitely works. Yeah.
It definitely works. And I would say that you have to be more disciplined and more sort of focused, because then you'll get the vibration flow. Keep yourself in the center as much as you can.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Alex, and for joining us from Melbourne in Australia.
Yeah, it's getting on a bit. It's 10:30 at night. So
okay, I'll stop recording now. Thank you so much for joining.
Shri Mataji, thank you.
Thanks to Felicity who got us in touch with you and actually made this happen. So I'll stop recording. Jai Shri Mataji, thank you.
Jai Shri Mataji. So the next chapter I'll talk about when we get another moment is to talk about what happened after the mother sending me to Hong Kong. And
yes, I'll just stop recording now and we'll thank you.
I've got